and was bullied at really at all of the schools. I was gonna say the majority, basically all of them, in one way or another.
What about the school for the blind?
Oh yeah, I was really bullied there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I am embarrassed to admit how many times a man has said something creepy that made me feel uncomfortable, and my response was not to stand up for myself or put him in his place and tell him to F off the way I wanted to, but instead was to say thank you so much and smile. And I want to be so clear. It was not about being nice. It was about being safe and protecting myself. I have been a lifelong people pleaser. It is something I have always struggled with. And the older I get, the more aware I become of the fact that so much of my people pleasing is rooted in my disability. And I want to talk about the intersection of disability and people pleasing because I think a lot of people are going to resonate with this. This is not something I see a lot of people talking about, and it is something that I've kind of just been untangling myself. Honestly, even in the process of writing my book, Unseen, How I Lost My Vision But Found My Voice, which is out now and would make a great holiday gift, just saying. You can buy it anywhere you get books, in audio, ebook, and hardcover. Anyways, as I wrote that book, I was really starting to see the threads of people pleasing throughout my life, and almost like untangling why those behaviors came to be. And since writing it, it's just like continually been this thought in my mind. And I can tell you that getting reviews and DMs on my book from other disabled people who tell me how much they feel seen and validated in all of these different experiences, from the internalized ableism to the workplace abuse to bullying to whatever it might be that you resonated in with that book. Like, I get those comments and I'm like, let me tell you that hearing that it resonated with you validates me. Like, it also makes me feel less alone and feel seen, knowing how many of you feel seen in those words. That like, okay, it's not just a me experience. These truly are disability experiences. And that is why representation matters so much, because, you know, I make content and I started making content because I did not see myself represented. So I became it because I knew if I wanted it, surely other people did too. And when I read your comments in the comment section of these videos, and you're like, yes, 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 I feel that, I've experienced that resonates with me, it just makes me feel better. Like, it makes me feel so much less alone, because I often do feel like, am I the only one going through this? Because I look at the non-disabled people who are in my day-to-day life, and I'm constantly reminded that we live such a different existence. We live in the same world, but a very different version of that world. And that is why having disabled friends is so important to me, and also coming to the internet and sharing these things with all of you, and following disabled content creators. And honestly, this video was in many ways sparked by a TikTok I saw by Sarah Todd Hammer, which I will insert right here.
Relying on other people for help is the most difficult aspect of being disabled for me personally, and I've never seen anybody talk about how relying on other people for help can put disabled people in an unfair place with respect to our emotions. I often depend on the people close to me, like friends and family members, for help, and those are the very same people who I might have an argument with occasionally. For example, there are times when my mom and I aren't necessarily getting along, but I still need her to wash my hair that evening.
If you do not follow Sarah Todd, I highly recommend. I'm gonna link her down below. She, I believe, is still in college, which is hard to believe because she is, I'm gonna say what I always have been told about myself. She is wise beyond her years, okay? She is so well spoken. She articulates the disability experience so well. She is so strong, and I just like adore her fire. I love it. So in that video, I definitely watched it and was like, yep, and this is why I'm a people pleaser. And I have so many other examples and ways in which I feel that I people please. But I want to, before I get into it any further, kind of make a delineation between strictly people-pleasing purely to be liked and fit in, and the fawn response, which I think we all have heard: fight, flight, or freeze, and we all know what those are. I'll just stick a definition up here just in case you don't. Also, Google's free, you know. But I feel like most people have heard that term before. Fawn is the often forgotten about quadruplet to the family, and fawning can often look like people-pleasing. But fawning is not simply a behavior to fit in or be liked. It is a trauma response. It is a coping mechanism. And most of what I call my people pleasing is fawning. That is the response that I have developed from all of my life experiences as a disabled woman in an ableist society. Fawning has become my go-to coping mechanism as a trauma response. And I'm going to put a definition here for fawning as well, because surely it'll be better than what I can describe. So there you have it. But while people pleasing can often be considered, quote, manipulative, for many of us who display people pleasing behaviors, it is not a conscious effort. We are not trying to be people pleasers. It is simply a survival instinct. It is something that our brains instantly tell us to do in order to stay safe, in order to feel comfortable, in order to avoid confrontation that make us feel unsafe, essentially. Whether it be like physical or emotional or mental, we're trying to avoid that discomfort that makes us feel unsafe and insecure. And so I think for me, a lot of it really started with a childhood of being bullied. You guys know I'm a really extroverted person. I firmly identify as a people person. I'm very extroverted. I am like that stereotype of I am somebody who will be exhausted, but I have like a work event to go to that night. So I go and I come home energized. I come home with more energy after hanging out with crowds of strangers than I went into it. I truly am an extrovert through and through. I love people. And it's really hard to be a social butterfly and to want to be friends with people and yet to feel constantly excluded. And so much of my bullying was because of my blindness, because people, my peers, perceived me as being different. Even if they didn't necessarily, when we were really young, understand how or why I was different, they could tell that I was because of things like having a special teacher that sat next to me and I get to write with markers and all of the other students have to write with pencils. And all of these things, right? Me getting to skip class, because really I'm learning Braille, but they don't know that. And so this made me vulnerable and made me a great target for bullies. And so I was bullied throughout school. I switched schools 5 times and was bullied at really at all of the schools. I was gonna say the majority, basically all of them, in one way or another.
What about the school for the blind?
Oh yeah, I was really bullied there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. Blind kids be mean.
That's a whole other topic, but I think being treated poorly for a piece of myself that I can't change or control taught me from a very young age that I needed to minimize myself to fit in. Living in a world that automatically looks at you as less than simply because you have a disability makes you, there's so much intersectionality here, right? Like a lot of my people pleasing comes from internalized ableism. A lot of my people pleasing comes from ableism. A lot of my people pleasing comes from like just trauma response. And so I think constantly feeling like I didn't fit in made me want to pull out the parts of me that would please people, that would make them accept me, that would make me more palatable to them. And so I became a chameleon. I'm very easily able to slot myself into many different social circles and social settings because I learned how to adapt, to fit in, and to be accepted, to avoid being bullied. And as I grew older, it became to avoid confrontation. I found myself in many very toxic workplace environments, which is something I go into extensively in my book that I've never really talked about outside of that book. But I had a boss who was really toxic. Well, pretty much all of my bosses at the company were. And I would just people please. I would just do what I needed to do. I would just be the person they wanted me to be. I would just become what I needed to survive and to be accepted and to keep a job, because I felt like my whole life, like the odds are against me to get employment. So if I get employment, I need to do whatever it takes to keep that employment. And so I just would people please my way out of really uncomfortable situations instead of standing up for myself, for self-preservation, so that I could keep a job, because if I lose this job, maybe I won't get another one. And I find myself, even now as an adult, often masking my disability. I'm trying to force myself to make eye contact even when I'm really tired, and trying to control my eye movements takes a lot more work than it does other times. And it actually gives me eye pain and headaches trying to control my eyes and look in people's directions, but it makes them accept me more. It makes them more comfortable. And I am trying to make myself fit to be accepted so that I'm not bullied and nobody confronts me, and I'm not put in these positions. Or being in like a social setting and like doing something that's inaccessible so I don't feel like I'm a burden. Like my very existence and accommodating my needs is burdensome or challenging for people or seems difficult or like too much. So I will sit with the group and watch a movie that doesn't have audio description, even though in my own time, I would absolutely never watch a movie without audio description. But I'll do that to make everybody else in the group more comfortable. I will fit their world instead of asking them to do something as small and simple as putting on, oh, it makes me sad. Aww. Because it's like, that sucks. When you live in a world where like people never think outside of their existence, but you're constantly thinking outside of yours. And like nobody gives you that same grace to be like, oh, like I keep joking with my boyfriend, like what a privileged life. Like, yeah. Like the people, this is like totally other topic now, but like the people, I've been seeing these videos of people like saying that Meta Ray-Ban glasses should be banned because it's like dangerous having people with wearable cameras that can film anybody anywhere, or like people who are so scared of AI. And I'm like, I don't have the privilege to fear AI because I need it. Like the amount that AI and that things like Meta Ray-Ban glasses contribute to my independence and my autonomy and my safety and my confidence overrides my fear of the bad things it may present to us as a society, because that's the world I live in. And the idea that I can sit in a group of people and no one thinks we should put on audio description. And I've been taught by society that me asking for them to, instead of just, if you offer and I say yes, that's okay. But if I ask, that's burdensome. I'm being difficult. Oh, we shouldn't have her because then we have to have that annoying AD track on. Like that's what my whole life has taught me. And that's why I always say it's like really problematic when we as a community talk about accommodations as benefits that we receive or as perks. Me having disability parking is not a perk of being blind. It's equity. It is an attempt to make up for the fact that navigating a busy parking lot when I can't see is dangerous. Me as a blind person getting to board the airplane early is not a perk or a benefit of my blindness. It is equity. It is because it takes me longer, and actually I will hold up everybody behind me if I am getting on at the same time as everybody else. And when we frame these things as perks or benefits, it tells non-disabled people that they're not necessities, and they are. So that's a whole other topic. But my point in getting into all of this is that like I live in a world where I feel like a constant need to be excessively grateful for people accommodating me and my existence. And that sucks, that I have to constantly be like, thank you so much. Oh my God, I really appreciate it. When you give me an AD headset, or when like my friends turn on audio description because none of them need it and they're only doing it for me. And I have to be like, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. I know it might be annoying. Like, I hate that. Mm-hmm. I hate that.
It makes so much sense, yeah.
And so it's like, instead you don't want to be perceived as difficult. So you do what you can to please people, to be easy, to make yourself palatable, to be comfortable around. And I know so many other people in the community do that.
Okay, hi. I just wanted to jump in here now that I'm less emotional and make a few more additional points in regards to the, like, say, talking about being in a situation where I'm with friends and wanting audio description turned on. When I'm with, like, my friends and my family, they're probably automatically turning it on anyways. And if they don't, I, like, will very confidently say something. The situation that I'm referring to is when I'm with, like, somebody else's friends who I don't know.
Like say I'm hanging out with my partner's friends. They're not my friends. I don't know them the way he does. I wouldn't feel as comfortable being like, "Hi everybody who I'm not even close with. Can you do this thing for me that none of you need?" Or if I'm like going with one of my friends to her friend's party. Like those situations where I'm a stranger or I don't know people very well, I don't have those personal connections. That's where I feel more uncomfortable advocating for myself. But when I'm like with my people, I will definitely just be like, "Yo, turn it on." But mostly I shouldn't even have to in those situations because my friends and family automatically know to do that anyways, and oftentimes won't even like want to watch a movie if it doesn't have AD because they know that that matters to me and my experience and enjoyment. And one other thing that I wanted to mention that I think also plays a role in some of this like people pleasing that I've developed over the years is in regards to the bullying that I experienced. Another big part of my people pleasing is I was so hurt at the hands of other people that I don't want to be the cause of somebody else's hurt. Even if it's like justified, or even if like I'm simply saying the truth, like I don't want to be hurtful. So I'll like keep that in. I am the type of person who like if I'm getting a massage and they're like, "Is that too deep? Does it hurt?" I'm just like, "No, it's fine." Even if it's hurting me. Like I don't know what is wrong in my brain that does that. Or like I'm getting my nails done and they're like filing too hard, I'll just be like and like keep going. Like I won't say anything because I don't want them to feel bad that they hurt me. Like, does that make sense? Like I know that sounds crazy. I even like I love like a lot of video essays and commentary videos, and I'll watch them and I'm in awe of their willingness to be honest about their opinion on somebody. And it's like they don't know this person that they're talking about, and they're like being like really judgmental. Like what I would consider judgmental. And they're not, like they're just making a point about a topic they're talking about. But like to me, I'm like, but what if that person sees that video and their feelings are hurt? Like, I don't know. Like, that's how I feel about everything. Like, I never want to hurt people's feelings. And I think an element of it as well is that I, again, almost out of survival, like, had to become an optimist. I forced myself to be a, like, glass half full, oh, we see the positive, benefit of the doubt kind of person because I, like, literally wanted to die. And, like, I saw nothing positive about my life, about my circumstance. Everything was doom and gloom. Everything was negative, can't, won't, shouldn't. That like to survive, I needed to be so intentional about flipping the way I see the world. And I put so much effort into doing that for so long that that is now like my natural state, is to just like find the positive in every negative circumstance and like view the world with rose-tinted glasses to survive, because I would rather smile than cry. And a lot of the times I feel like if I'm not smiling, I am going to cry about this circumstance. If I don't make a dark humored, sarcastic joke, then I'm going to be upset. And I would rather like be happy, you know? I don't want to go to those dark places again. So I like just find the positive in things, and I know that it's to a fault at times. Like my boyfriend can tell you, I am always the person who's like, but let's like look at this perspective. Maybe like this is going on in their life and that's why they cut you off in traffic. They're not just being a bad person. They might be in an emergency. Like I'm just constantly finding every way to like give people the benefit of the doubt and to never be like critical of them. And I know that that is a flaw. Like we should be able to be critical of things in order to actually create change that needs to happen, or in order to help other people grow and learn. Being able to provide constructive criticism is important. And I'm able to somehow do that in my work, like when I'm consulting for a company, or when I'm in a situation like in a business meeting and somebody says the word differently abled. I am in that circumstance perfectly comfortable being like, hey, don't use that term and this is why. But somehow in my real life, if I'm like at the gym and somebody used that word to me, I wouldn't be able to say that to them. And I don't know what that is. Like in work, I can channel my advocacy, and yeah, like I guess I feel like I'm being asked. Like people know when they hire me that that's who I am, and that I will say the things. So I feel like I can do that.
Different contexts.
Different contexts. But when I'm around strangers,
I don't feel like I can do that. It's like a really weird dichotomy, but a lot of it all truly I do think comes down to like coping mechanisms and like survival skills that I developed because of all of these different nuanced layers of like trauma and experiences that I've had throughout my life that have kind of like turned me into this person. So yeah, that I just wanted to add that extra layer that I was thinking about. Okay, back to other Molly.
And then, as I said earlier, like safety. When I'm in an Uber with a strange man that I don't know driving me on my own, and he makes an uncomfortable remark about my physical appearance or asking if I have a boyfriend, I don't shut the conversation down the way I want to. I don't say, that makes me uncomfortable. I don't want to talk about that. I appease, and I'm polite, and I'm friendly, and I'm agreeable so that I stay safe, because I don't know his facial expressions. I don't know his body language. I don't even know where we are. And so when I'm in those settings, or if I'm like at a bar or a restaurant or a friend's place and somebody approaches me that I don't know, and I'm in a dark, loud environment where I can't see, I can't hear very well, and somebody is making comments that make me uncomfortable, I don't feel like I am safe enough without just appeasing and being easy and agreeable and playing along with what they want me to do. And that sucks. I hate that I have to do that. But again, I've been in enough situations where I've learned that that's what I need to do. Because all of the warning signs and cues that you get as a sighted person, I don't get, that tell you, oh, this person is dangerous. And on top of that, even if I know they're dangerous, I may not have an easy way out. I can't just run like a sighted person can. And I mean, this is why the statistics of disabled women, you know, being assaulted and abused are so high. Because as much as we don't want to admit that we're vulnerable, in those situations we are. And so I do what I have to do to get through that, to keep myself safe. And then, absolutely, to Sarah Todd's point, at the end of the day, we still live in a world where many of us with disabilities do need help with certain tasks. It doesn't matter how much assistive tech I have. It doesn't matter how many of my own skills I've developed to be independent and capable. We live in a world that is not fully accessible yet. So yes, there are things that I rely on others for, which would include like getting rides to places. Sometimes I'm going somewhere that is simply out of budget for me to Uber, or I don't feel safe enough to Uber because it's dark out. I mean, frankly, I avoid getting in like Ubers and Lyfts alone at all costs because of previous situations. And so I avoid it when I can. Obviously, it's not always avoidable. And so if I need a ride somewhere that I wouldn't be able to afford to go, like maybe a doctor's appointment that's an hour drive away that would be way too expensive for me to Uber, and I need somebody to drive me there, I don't like have the privilege of staying in a fight, right? Like I have to be the bigger person and either apologize or accept an apology that I don't really feel like accepting for self-preservation, for like literal survival, so I can get a daily task done that I need to get done, which is not something that non-disabled people who do not have to rely on others for basic daily tasks have to do. I think of friends of mine who are, you know, quadriplegic, paralyzed from the neck down, and have caretakers who have to help them get dressed, who have to help them shower, who have to help them with their bowel routine. They don't have the privilege of like staying mad at that person. And that sucks, because sometimes we just want to be mad at somebody for a bit because they hurt us. And to have to forgive somebody who hurt you prematurely simply so you can survive and get a daily task done that you need to do sucks and is really unfair. And I hate that for me and for everybody else who has found themselves in that position. You know, my mom often talks about like, oh, you're so easygoing. Like, you're such an easygoing person. I have to be. Or she'll be like, it's incredible. Like, you'll go to these places and do these things that I wouldn't think you would enjoy, but like, you're just like so easygoing and agreeable and doing them with everybody. And I'm like, because the other option is I don't get included. The other option is I stay home alone. The other option is I'm the reason nobody in the family got to go do that thing because they felt bad that I couldn't go, so nobody went. Like, I don't want to be the reason nobody enjoys something, so I'll just smile and go and pretend I'm enjoying it, you know, or like do my best to find the enjoyable moments in it, or so that I don't get like just left behind and left out. I've gotten used to living in a world that's not accessible for me, and just like having to be okay with that, and having to be okay with the fact that like I miss out on things. And I hate that. I hate that I'm surprised when something is accessible and then I'm like overly grateful for it. Like when somebody gives me a Braille menu, I'm like, oh my God, like this is crazy. Thank you so much. This is crazy. This is so cool that you guys did this. It's a menu. Like, I shouldn't be excited when the world is accessible. But that's, for so many of us with disabilities, the reality is like we're excited when we're included. We're excited when it's accessible. We've so often been isolated by being disabled that we do anything to fit people's expectations, to be easy, to be accommodated, to be included, to be easy. And it sucks. And I think a huge factor is the power imbalance. At the end of the day, these people can see and I cannot. There is a power that they hold that I don't have. And oftentimes, these are the people who hold the keys that open the doors. These are the people who hold the accommodations that I need. These are the people who give me the assistance that I require. And so for me, it's like feeling like access or accessibility comes at being easy or likable. And just know that your people-pleasing or fawning behavior isn't the problem. The ableism in society that necessitates that behavior in you, that is the problem. And I encourage you, once you become aware and you acknowledge this, to try to find those safe spaces and those safe people in your life. And it isn't going to be everywhere because that's just not the world we live in and we can't control that. But what we can do is try to minimize the exposure to that as best we can. And that is through our immediate social circles when possible. So finding the people in your life who don't create spaces for you to need to lean on that coping mechanism, if that makes sense. And obviously, while most of my friends at this point in my life are disabled, a lot of the people in my immediate life, like my partner and my family, are not. They're all sighted, they're all non-disabled people. And so therefore, there will inherently be moments where they are accidentally ableist or accidentally trigger these things, and that's okay. I understand that, and it's about being able to communicate that to people and have those open dialogues. And that's why having family, partners, best friends who make you feel like you have that safe space to openly have that dialogue is so important. So that's what I want to encourage you to do in your own life when and where and if possible. And I'm sure there's so much I left out of this video. This is what happens when I just sit down and ramble and get all emotional and go into many different directions. I feel like we hit on 18 topics in one Molly Rambles video, but hope you enjoyed it. And I would love to hear your perspective on this topic in the comment section down below. And until next time, you can click over here to watch this Molly Rambles video I made all about the blind girl on Love is Blind, or you can click over here to watch this one that I made about Taylor Swift maybe being autistic and Sabrina Carpenter's potentially ableist song lyrics. Bye.